Bucks were out of town getting beaten in Calgary, this was the scene last night at the Coliseum, where some others were getting clobbered. Pro wrestling was back in the form of the World Wrestling Federation out of Toronto, with the likes of Andre the Giant, Blackjack Mulligan, Big John Studd, and the Spoiler. The names may change, but the plot is still the same. Well, our guest tonight used to do that. Sandor Kovacs is a familiar name to Vancouver wrestling fans. He was a professional wrestler in the 60s. Then he turned wrestling promoter with shows like All-Star Wrestling on TV in the 70s. Then he turned manager of the dance studio Terpsichore, in which his wife is a partner. But last night he was back with his first love as the local promoter for Maple Leaf Wrestling's debut at the Coliseum. Sandor, when you see that, do you miss it?
Yes, I do.
You miss getting banged around the ring like that?
No, I miss not getting banged around.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just that tomorrow morning I'll wake up and I won't have any aches and pains.
Has it changed a lot since you were in the ring?
Yes, there's more characters have crept into the business or have been brought into the business. Maybe because the emphasis is on the showbiz aspect of it, and also keeping in trend with the rock scene. You can't separate the two, or so it seems.
Now, as long as wrestling like this has been around, people have asked, is it real? But you always get the same answer that you ask when you talk about...
Well, it's not. No, it's as real as anything you see on television.
What does that mean?
Any doubt in your mind, you get your eyes on them, because it's as real as the world turns, or a hockey game, or anything else.
Comparing soap operas, wrestling, and hockey.
It's entertainment. I make no apologies for it, and I say that it's probably the best entertainment, one of the best entertainment values for your dollar.
We'll talk more about it, but we have a number of people out there who'd like to talk to you, so let's go right to the phones. Go ahead, you're on Sportsline.
Yes, I'd like to ask what the salary range is for the top wrestlers in the business.
Today, it runs from $150,000 to $300,000 a year. It's not a salary because the wrestlers are paid according to the gate receipts. It's a percentage of the gate. And that is determined by what value you are to the promotion as a box office attraction.
Okay, next call to Sandor Kovacs.
Hi, I would just like to know if the blood is real.
Of course it's real.
You say that as if we shouldn't even ask that kind of a question, but when you watch that...
No, see, the wise guys, they say, oh, that they use capsules, they use ketchup, and, you know, well, fine. People can say that because they like to knock anything or anyone, you know. And they love to, with the derogatory things. But all you have to do is take if in doubt, next time a wrestler bleeds, take a tissue paper, get a sample of that coloring on his face, take it to a lab, and find out if it is real blood or not.
They don't ever use any fake
Not to my
substances?
knowledge. I have not been party to or witnessed any of these so-called colorants, ketchups, or capsules.
Okay, let's take another call. Go ahead.
Well, hi, when you say wrestling's real, you might be getting bored of these questions, but anyway, is it real acting? And if not, why do so many people think so?
Well, but people can think what they want. Real acting? No, I think it's a real athletic event. The guys are well conditioned, and to all intents and purposes, they are trying to beat their opponent.
To all intents and purposes?
Yes.
What do you mean? That almost leaves a little bit of leeway.
Well, because I can't vouch for every match that takes place on the continent or
Of course
or in
not.
Canada,
Nobody expects you to.
And I'm not saying that there isn't hanky-panky as in anything, in any profession.
Well, when you say hanky-panky, like what?
Well, what the caller is implying, that maybe it's fixed or other shenanigans take place.
Does the good guy always win?
Not necessarily. No, the good guy does not always win.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. Go ahead.
Oh, hello?
Hi.
Mr. Kovacs?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to make 2 short points about professional wrestling. I've been a wrestling fan for about the last 15 years now, and I get a bit peeved when people tell me how phony it is. All I have to say to those people is, you go up and let a guy that's 6'5", 400 pounds punch you a good one, and you'll find out how phony it is, or let them throw you over the top rope and land off balance from 8 feet in the air on a concrete floor and see how that feels, or do a backdrop from 8 feet up and see how that fixes up your back. And another thing, people say that pro wrestling is such a violent sport. All they have to do is watch a professional boxing match where 2 men stand head-to-head and literally punch each other in the head for 15 2-minute rounds until one of them is knocked out, not for a 3 count, but a 10 count.
What's your response to
My
that?
response, if you want to see violence, all you have to do is watch hockey.
You were going to say that.
And boxing, I'm a boxing fan myself. I used to be, particularly when the quality of the fights were much better. But still, the idea of boxing is to knock my opponent senseless. While in wrestling, the idea is for me to pin him, maybe humiliate him somewhat.
Somewhat. We have a film, some more tape of last night's wrestling, and you talk about humiliation and everything being real. If we could roll that tape, and maybe you could talk about it.
I'm anxious to see it.
There it is. Now, what's happening here?
Well, George Wells is being humiliated right there. George used to be the defensive tackle for the Regina Rough Riders. And
Now, is he really punching him there?
yes, he did. Absolutely punched him. The blow
He just
landed.
stood on his stomped his neck there?
Yeah, he stood on his throat. Yeah, that's all right. And now that,
What was that
I
all
wouldn't approve of
about?
that. I think he thumbed him in the eye.
Is that allowed?
No, it shouldn't be. No, as a matter of fact, the referee, not going to disqualify him just for one little infraction, but if he would persist doing it repeatedly, I'm sure that a disqualification would come about.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. Go ahead to Sandor Kovacs.
Sandor,
Yes.
can you tell me the reason why they don't cover it in the newspaper anymore?
Why there isn't?
Yeah.
I thought.
No. I'm talking about the local.
Well, that is the discretion of the editorial staff.
Because I've not seen the results for many months.
Well, also maybe because the previous promotion haven't taken the time to call in and give them the results.
And I don't hear it on the sports news, like the sports final or something like that, on the TV or
Like on
the
Sportsline?
Yes, I think it's because of neglect by the previous promoters. So you have to pick up the phone and call in and give them the results and say, here are the results of tonight's matches. And because there is an audience out there that is interested in who did what to who.
It's interesting, though. Back east in Toronto and Madison Square Garden, they're selling out for these wrestling matches. 18,000 in there. Right. Last night at the Coliseum, there were only about 3,000. Right.
Well, I suppose it's because it hasn't been promoted properly locally. And I don't want to be blowing my own horn, but maybe that is why they have recruited me to come out of retirement and to see if I can improve the situation somewhat.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. Go ahead, you're on Sportsline.
Yes, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. Two of my favorite wrestlers are the Brute. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh, do I ever?
And the Giant. I think his name was Andre the Giant. Are they still wrestling, or
Well,
what are they doing now?
if you look closely at your set, you would have seen Andre the Giant in action, I believe, in that four-man tag team last night. Too bad you didn't come down to catch him at the Coliseum. And the Brute, I think he's gone back to teaching at one of the universities in the United States.
We have some more pictures which I think have Andre the Giant in them. If we could go to those. Is Andre in there?
That's Andre right there.
Now, watching that, it doesn't even look like he's hitting him.
But he is. Where he's hitting him, I'm not saying that each blow was considered to inflict like mortal damage. You know? Just like every shot on the goal in a hockey game doesn't mean that the puck goes in
Now,
either. You know?
would you consider Andre the Giant an athlete?
Not in my. Yes, he's performing in athletic event. Now, with all
Now, did he just hit that little guy?
little guy? He only weighs 250.
No, the little guy in the black.
Well, that man had no business being in the ring.
He had no business being there, but did he just hit him?
Yes, he did.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Okay, let's take another phone call. Go ahead.
Hello there, Sandy.
Yes.
What are the ticket prices of the wrestling matches in comparison to other professional sports?
Well, they're a couple of dollars less than, say, the football and the hockey tickets. Our tickets generally run at $8. What do you pay for a hockey game admission? Or
Well,
football
it's
game?
15 up to 18.
Is it really? Maybe 10. I can't give you all the technical details right now because I'm just getting back into the swing of things. So, but that is generally the price range. It's below the team sports, what's being charged for team events.
So how does it feel to be back in the game?
Well, I can't dismiss 35 years very easily. It feels good because the wrestlers are interesting people. Colorful, pain in the neck sometimes, quite frequently, but it's interesting. It's never dull.
It's never dull.
Never dull.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us here tonight.
Right.
And good luck with your new venture.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Okay, Sandor. Recapping tonight's highlights, Lanny Wadkins wins the L.A. Open by 7 strokes with a tournament record 20 under par. Hollis Stacy wins the first event on the ladies' tour. John McEnroe wins the U.S. Pro Indoor Championship, beating the 60th ranked player from Czechoslovakia. But the upset came in the women's tournament in Florida, where for the first time in 30 matches, Chris Everett-Lloyd finally beat Martina Navratilova, and she did it in straight sets. And in hockey, the Capitals beat the Islanders 5-2. The Sabres beat Quebec 3-2. It was Boston over Hartford 8-4, Rangers over Minnesota 3-2, and Toronto